CBS News Justice and Homeland Security correspondent Jeff Pegues joins me now. So, Jeff, the House Intel Committee voted Monday to release the Democrats' response to the Republican memo that was released on Friday. What happens next?
Well, it was a unanimous vote, and now it goes to the White House for the president to review. He's got 5 days, I should say, to do that. And so the clock is already started on that. And this is a legal review and national security review, according to White House officials. It's a process that will be led by the White House counsel, Don McGahn. But just as they did with the Republican memo last week, this Democratic memo will face the same type of scrutiny, we're told. And again, the president has 5 days to make up his mind about whether he's going to declassify this document or not.
Well, Jeff, as you know, Democrats say their 10-page rebuttal highlights flaws in the Republican account. Can you remind us again what those flaws in Democrats' view might be? And do we have a sense of what might be in the Democratic counter memo more broadly?
Well, sure. The GOP memo last week alleged that there was bias in the way that the FBI and the Department of Justice obtained this warrant to monitor the activities of Carter Page. He's a former Trump campaign foreign policy advisor. And so what the Republicans are essentially alleging is that at the very start of the Russia investigation, there was bias in the FBI and DOJ that led to the authorities obtaining this warrant. Now, the Democratic memo will try to rebut that, and it's going to be a 10-page memo with these counterpoints raising issues with how, in the Democrats' view, the Republicans were cherry-picking facts and data from the intelligence file. Now, this was a large file, and the Republican memo was condensed down to 4 pages, and so the Democrats believe that there were some facts omitted from that document, and frankly, FBI officials seem to agree with them. They said that there were grave concerns with that 4-page memo, and so the Democrats, with their version, if it's declassified, will try to counter that.
Well, what implications, Jeff, do the release of these memos have for the intelligence and law enforcement communities and their relationships with lawmakers?
Well, in the intelligence and law enforcement community, when you gather very sensitive information, it is important, obviously, to keep that information under wraps as much as you possibly can, and especially with an investigation like the Russia investigation, that in gathering information, law enforcement authorities and intelligence authorities are focusing on sources and methods. These are the very sensitive sources that they often use to gather that kind of information. And so the more these issues are discussed, the more these sources and methods are exposed, and that's never good news for investigators, and that's why you see this clash between the intelligence community, the law enforcement community, and politicians on Capitol Hill. Investigators believe that these politicians, some of them at least, are politicizing this information, which is never good for the intelligence community.
Well, Jeff, where does Robert Mueller's special counsel investigation fit into all of this?
Well, the investigation is ongoing. There are Republicans on Capitol Hill who say that these memos, or at least the Republican memo, seeks to undermine the Russia investigation. The president said over the weekend and that he has been vindicated. But that may not be the case. It's certainly not the case in the eyes of the Democrats, and that's in part why they want to get their memo out there. The question is, will there be a bunch of redactions in that memo that seeks to cover up some of the points that they try to make in their version of their memo? That's what remains to be seen here, whether the president, in declassifying the Democratic document, will try to redact much of the information. You recall that in the Republican version, the Republican memo, there were no redactions. And so right now, you have Democrats who are concerned that in releasing this, the president will also redact a lot of the information.
All right, Jeff Pegues in Washington for us. Jeff, thanks very much.
My pleasure.